In this lesson, I'm going to show you one of my favorite ways to get flammed rudiments around the kit. Now in this lesson, we're going to be working with the Swiss Army triplet, but you should know that the larger concept of this lesson can be applied to virtually any rudiment that contains a flam. So first, let's get this basic structure of the measure down. This can just be treated as a one measure fill or as an exercise if you prefer, just a matter of perspective. Now in this measure, you'll see that the Swiss Army triplet, played as flam right-left, can be found 4 times. Now in my mind, it's easiest to think about those Swiss Army triplets as groupings of 6, which would fall on 1E and a 2E, and again on 3E and a 4E. But once again, matter of perspective, just depends on how you want to group those and perceive them in your own mind. Now, there is a theme happening in this measure, and it's again this 6/2 kind of thing. We have a 6-note grouping followed by 2 kicks, and then another 6-note grouping followed by 2 hands. Just knowing that alone should make it easier to hear what's happening in the groups. But before we get any further, let's just play this on kick and snare at 3 speeds and just get a vibe for what's happening in our new pattern. Okay, so if that feels good, now I have 2 orchestration exercises for you using this exact pattern. For our first exercise, we're going to focus on the flams themselves and start moving around the right hand only within the flams. Now in each 6-note grouping, we're doing the same thing as far as orchestration goes. The first right hand that falls within that flam, that goes up to the rack tom. And then the second time that we play a flam, that right hand is now down on the floor tom. So let's just toggle these 2 orchestrations back and forth at 3 speeds and see what it feels like to have only that right hand within the flams move between the rack tom and the floor tom. Now it's important to remember that there are a lot of variations here. You have 4 flams within the measure, meaning you have 4 right hands that could potentially be orchestrated somewhere. We just played them going between the rack tom and the floor tom, back and forth, but you can certainly change up the order there. So a good suggestion would be maybe apply like a paradiddle format to them. So you would have rack, floor, rack, rack, or floor, rack, floor, floor. A lot of things you can do when we're dealing with 4 total flams. Anyway, that's the first layer of this exercise. We're using the measure to get the 4 right hands inside of our flams to move around the kit, and you can take that concept as far as you want to if you want to keep experimenting with different orchestrations. But the second layer here requires that we also focus on the second note of the Swiss Army triplets, which are the 4 right hands that you can now see highlighted in this measure. Now, my favorite place to orchestrate that second note of the Swiss Army triplet is definitely the hi-hat. So for the sake of keeping this simple, that's where we're going to put it in this lesson. As far as the flams go, nothing has really changed. We're going to keep the tom orchestrations the same, so just rack, floor, but now each time after you play a tom with your right hand, no matter which tom it is, you have to move that right hand from one of the toms to a closed hi-hat immediately. And this is where a lot of the mobility comes into play, because as the speed increases, you really have to plan for the physical motion of sweeping that right hand across the kit from one of the toms to that closed hat. Let's try this out at 3 speeds. Good luck. And a closing note, if you like this lesson and you want to learn a few more flam ideas kind of like this one, you'll find tons of useful ideas inside of the Flam Chops lesson pack. Make sure to check that out if you want more concepts and flam ideas like this one. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in lesson 3.